Tolong ya. Saya minum dulu. Sosmed. Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, how are you? I'm fine. After a long weekend, yeah. So yeah, we are ready to get back here and continue our class. But before we start, have you checked for the studio assignment, term of reference? Any one of you don't understand or anything that you want to ask before we start the class? Paham ya? So you know what to do, right? So you need to find two or three adjectives. Two adjectives, and then you draw three alternatives for each adjective. So you're supposed to have 6 drawings already by Thursday, right? And then on Thursday, you and your supervisor will choose one for each adjective, and then you have to redraw it in a proper sketch using charcoal and big graphite pencil, yeah, 6B or something, yes? One drawing per page. So you will have 2 papers submitted, yeah? Okay. Oh, color sketch, it's okay, as long as it's not too small. So it's just iteration, kan? You might also have more than 3 alternatives if you want. You can, this alternative, you can go as many as you want. But then when you choose, it is selected by the tutor, and then you have to develop one each for the each adjective. Yeah, okay. Anything else that you want to ask about the assignment? No? Okay, then. Now we continue to this class, yeah, architectural design theory and methods. Today we will talk about understanding architectural design. So basically we still talk about theories, but then we will have a slight discussion about approach and method, probably not in a practical way just yet, but still in the terms of how we understand approach and method, yeah, in design. Okay, next. Last week I asked you, why should we learn architectural design theory? While probably you think that you will be an architect, a practitioner that don't really need theories, yeah. And it turns out that actually if we learn design theory, we understand, architectural design theory, understanding architecture as not as a building per se, not as a physical form, but the thought process that creates the building. Because as I mentioned, I myself always think that architecture is just a product of what happened in the context. Ya, silahkan. So architecture is just a product of the culture, the how humanity developed. Like, for instance, the Pyramid of Giza. It shapes like that, not because it's just shaped like that. It's not only about the aesthetic, like the Pharaoh want to build something like that, but there is a power, like they want to show that they built something, like the Great Wall of China, yeah. Why should they build something so gigantic? Is it for the sake of aesthetic? No, there will be another purpose. So the architecture is the product of that purpose. And we need to know what purpose that actually lead to the making of architecture. And also that sometimes not only about the reason or the context that bring architecture into something built, but also the thought process of the architect itself. Yeah. Jadi why architect make it that way, not the other way around. Okay, so continue. Architecture was not an object to be constructed, but a type of thought that had its effect in building. So we also see architecture is not only an object that is constructed, but how architecture also affect whatever in the space, like how you behave, how the user feel, the ambience, like what you want to make that you will make in the studio, how to create a room that probably make you scared or make you feel terrified or make you feel want to run, like that is something that we need to learn beside the practice itself. Next. If you have question, feel free to raise your hand. Aduh, nggak kelihatan ya. The problem with architecture. So why there is a never-ending debate between architects and the academics or people who actually dealing with theory? Why there's a big gap between practice and theory? Because it turns out that no one could seem to make theory written about architecture useful for making architecture. So it's a common, this is common if you had a theory of design, for instance, and then you try to make an architecture out of it. This is not like a general, like it's not like as easy as you think, because mostly theory written about architecture is to understand the architecture, not to make architecture. Do you get what I'm saying? Yes. Okay, good. Because in the bottom part, the theory only for interpreting architecture. You try to understand, for instance, like what I mentioned, why tadi apa? Great Wall of China, or probably Gedung Sate, or probably Aula Barat, Aula Timur, ya, Great Hall of ITB. Why is it made like that? We need theory to understand it, but after you use the same theory, it's not like you can make another design that's similar to the one that you observed. Yeah. And the theory won't allow a designer to understand why doing this might make that happen, why doing this might make that happen. I mean, this is not like a recipe. Like, it's not like what you want to bake a cake, so you have a list of the ingredient and what to do, and whoever I pass the recipe, you can make the same thing, right? If I pass it to you, Mbak, and then you make one, and I will pass it to you, you make one, the taste will be the same. But that is not, why I keep like that? Oh. Wait. Again, what did I mention? Oh yeah, this is, architecture is not like that. As architecture is not like you can replicate by telling you what to do. Okay, draw a circle, draw a triangle, and then suddenly everyone have the same thing. The triangle can be here, and then someone can merge it, someone can, deform it, but that's architecture, yeah? Next. The problem is, this is, yeah, you can open the Zoom, yeah? The Zoom link that I've sent you. If you cannot see this, you can see it on the screen. Yeah, I mean, the most theory that we have is analytical theory. It means that the theory is used for analysis, to understand it, to study the existing, to understand architecture, to understand why one building is built that way. While what we need actually in making architecture is the generative theory. So generative theory means generating something, yeah, to assemblage, to make an architecture, to come with a result. But that is not common. Very few that actually very few theory that actually a generative theory. And that's why it is just to give you an understanding how the two are different. Yeah. Next. So what is designing? We talk about designing. Designing different with design ya. Kalau design itu adalah which one is the process, which one is the product? Design is the product and designing is the process. That's why my supervisor back in Melbourne Uni, Greg Missingham, he wrote a book called Designing Your Designing, like designing your design process. That is important, yeah. Because you as an architect must know your own designing, meaning the process of your process of design. So next, probably we can have a little discussion. What is designing for you? What do you think? You are now architecture student and you do design. And what is designing for you? Anyone? Anyone want to have a comment on this or probably have? Yeah, Mbak, can you use this mic so that people in Zoom will? Sorry ya. What is designing?
Tes.
Nggak, bukan, cuma ke Zoom aja.
Oh, ke Zoom.
No, I mean it won't
Oh,
go.
okay.
Yeah,
For me, designing is designing is how I express, how menuangkan my feeling into something, into paper that can people see, and how can we build our feeling into something like art, something like that, I guess.
Okay. So you mentioned that designing is expressing, showing, depicting whatever inside your feeling in your head into something that people can see. Yeah. Either it is 2 or 3-dimensional form. Okay. Other opinion? You do design. What is design? What is designing? Okay, Mas. Sorry, yeah. I need to move. Edit.
In a most effective way.
Most effective way. Okay. Okay. So you do, okay. That is aligning with design as a problem solving. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to have different opinion? Probably. There's no right or wrong answer. Yeah. Again, in my class. So if you wanna say something, probably next one. Okay. So this is what I found when we talk about designing. And it turns out that everyone in this list who are prominent writers, yeah, they write different description or definition about the designing. Let's read one by one. Finding the right physical components of a physical structure. Finding the right physical components of a physical structure. That's by Jones Alexander or something. I can't remember. Okay, next, a goal-directed problem-solving activity. That's Bruce Archer. A goal-directed problem-solving activity. You can get the sentence, yeah? So a problem-solving activity that lead by a certain goal. Okay, next. Decision making in the face of uncertainty with high penalties for error. Okay, makes sense. Does it apply to architecture? Decision making in the face of uncertainty with the high penalties of error. Does it apply to architecture? Yeah? Yes. Because if you design it wrong, the building will collapse and people will die. That is a very severe penalty, yeah, for a design error. Okay, next. Simulating what we want to make or do before we make or do it as many times as may be necessary to feel confident in the final result. Simulating what we want to make or do before we make or do it. Meaning, you try on the paper first, calculate it, you simulate it through a model or 3D calculation thing, yeah, until you're confident that this is okay, this is will stand amidst probably the weather, the earthquake or something, and then you build it. Okay. The conditioning factor for those part of the product which come into contact with people. The conditioning factor for those parts of the product which come into contact with people. Probably this applied not only for architecture, yeah, probably for other design. I mean, because this is designing for like a general term, like it can be for engineering design, product design, interior design. Okay, next. Relating product with a situation to give satisfaction. Okay, so you understand the situation and then you give the product to solve it in the satisfaction way. Okay, okay, great. Next, the performing of a very complicated act of faith. Wow, okay. The performing of very complicated act of faith. Okay, that's a bit difficult to digest. Eh? The optimum solution of the sum of the true needs of particular set of circumstances. The imaginative jump from present fact to future possibilities. The creative activity. It involves bringing into being something new and useful that has not existed previously. Okay, so many people talk differently about designing, yeah, and some probably applied in architecture, applicable for architecture, some are not. But we talk about designing in general, and probably next one. You see that when they talk about this, about the designing, they did mention nothing specific about the discipline. Yeah. So designing is a general term. And as I mentioned now, even people in economic use the term design thinking, designing something. So this is not specifically for creative discipline. No one mentioned drawing. Yeah. So designing is not always about drawing. Solving problem is. That's why when people in probably SBM, yeah, say design thinking in solving, you know, probably how to capture the market of Gen Z thing. And then they use design thinking, they don't use drawings. Yeah, because the act of design is the problem solving itself. And it's about the ingredient, not about the outcome. So most of them earlier talk about what to do with the ingredient, but doesn't really say about the outcome, meaning like it has to be a shape of what, or it has to be a form of space, or it has to be a product, you know. So again, I just want you to understand that design is so wide. So just if you do it in architecture, art, do not confine, you know, like your option only in architecture discipline, yeah, because the possibility is many. So this is probably something that simple enough and probably applied in architecture, the initiation of the change in man-made things. So if we do architecture, we design architecture, we initiate a change in the man-made thing, or probably we call it built environment, yeah, because the area of what we do is built environment. To bring about the change in the world at large, the designer must be able to predict the effect of their proposed design, specifying the action that are needed to bring this effect about. This is why architects sometimes called as magician, in a term that not magician, future teller, is it the correct term? Like someone that actually predict the future, because not only that you need to predict what will happen next in the society in which you build your building, but you also have to predict what your architecture will bring to the society. You know, like there's no simulation for that one. Okay, you have simulation for wind, and then for sun, for something that is stable. But if you put, like, for instance, apa ya, for instance, in the Taman Ganesha or the Ganesha Garden, untuk kamu taruh sesuatu, misalnya apartment, what will happen? Can you predict all the effect? Can you predict all the social effect? For instance, how people, will there be people street vendor around it going closer to building? Will that be abandoned? Will that be used by, is it by the student or by people like a working people that can afford the price of the land, for instance? You cannot predict. You might predict, but it is never like 100% accurate, yeah. And it's, especially if you talk about the social part, it is very difficult to predict. But as an architect, you need to do that. So if you do your final project, for instance, as I mentioned, we are moving toward issue-based, yeah, issue-based design. And then you need to say that, okay, I have an issue of, for instance, gender inequality, and that I want to make this building that can help reverse that. And then you need to predict that by the presence of this building, the change that will make, I will make to the society is this. It means like you're predicting a series of action caused by your building. You know, do you follow? Do you following what I'm saying? Yeah, right. Okay. And the action that need to be bring this effect about. So in terms of changing the inequalities, my building will do this. The series, probably we can go beyond the building. Like, for instance, we will do social empowerment using the room of this. It will happen this. So you need to specify the series of action, not only like this the building, everything will be better after my building's present. No, but you need to explain, and that will be part of your final project also. Yeah, one of the final project that is that we promote to Arcasia, is it Arcasia ya Mas ya? Zeva tuh. Nggak ingat ya. One of the student that we sent 3 students to Arcasia, sorry, Mbak, to compete with other school in the whole Indonesia, and then we'll go forward to Southeast Asia. The winner is someone from our school, yeah, someone who make a very simple building, but it's very beautiful. But the intention was to give an empowerment for the local people. And she didn't only make the building, but she designed the social engineering part. So she make a timeline, not only like 5, 10, 15 years, but longer than that. So she predict the first 5 years, what we do is teaching the people to be familiar with this material, to be able to, make a creative product with this material. And then the next 5 years, it means like 10 years, we will do this, and creating a community, la, 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 la. So see, as an architect student, not only think about how to design the physical, but also to design the community. And she won. And she got sent to, I can't remember, is it the Thailand or Taiwan or somewhere in this year's Arcasia. So, and she was crowned as one of the best, yeah. So it means, it shows that as an architect, we need to go beyond our building, yeah, and predict the effect. And we can engineer that, actually. If it is implied, if it's built and really applied to the society, she might not work alone. She might need some sociologist, anthropologist that work together, but at least she thinks about that. She give a heartfelt thought about the community itself, yeah. Okay. The objective of designing concern less about the product and more about the change and how society adapt to and benefit from the new design. Okay, so this is actually for the society, yeah. Less about the product. It means you are not going to be like a Frank Gehry who just built something extraordinary and that's it. But you need to be responsible of the effect of the building, yeah. Have you heard about Fruit Ego? Can you Google it? Fruit, P-R-U-I-T, P-R-U-I-T I-G-O-O. Did I spell it correctly? P-R-U-I-T. P-R-U-I-T-I-G-O-A. Yeah. That is one of the most fatal design error in architecture. Probably you can read it later, yeah. But a glimpse of the story is that someone have a very utopian idea of creating community by, building like a massive series of housings. And it turns out nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to live there. Only few people wants to live there, and it turns out that the area became a very crime-infested housing, full of drug dealers and rapers and everything. And the government gave up of cleaning the part, so they demolished it. They demolished the whole building. And that is because the architect couldn't predict in the correct way of how, the architecture will cause to the community. Yeah, and that, for some people, that is the end of modern architecture. So that is a modernist and goes to the postmodernist one, if we talk about the series of that, yeah. But have a look, because you might probably need that in other lectures, yeah, discussing about the failure of architecture. Okay, next. Anyone want to ask something or discuss something about this? Showing agreement or disagreement, probably? Okay. Oh my God, I wanna have a sip first. Why designing is difficult? Why something like Fruit Ego have to happen? Because designing is not easy. As I mentioned, designing is not an easy thing, because you need to use current information to predict the future state. And the future state will not come unless their predictions are correct, your predictions are correct. For instance, you need to redesign Jalan Dago. And one of the criteria in the term of reference in the brief said that the design must be useful for at least 50 years. Ya, kadang kan kayak gitu ya. If someone, I want to make a shopping mall that is relevant for at least 30 years. Biar nggak kalah trennya dengan the new, some newer shopping mall. How do you predict that your building will still be relevant for 30 years, 50 years? That's why designing is difficult. Yeah, that's why you need to somehow predict, okay, start with, okay, if I am a client and I tell you, okay, I want to design a shopping mall that lasts and at least 50 years, that I don't need to make a major renovation as a facelift. How do you start? What will be the most prominent consideration for that? Anyone want to? How you start? This might be a real project for you, right? Even when I was invited as a jury, as a juror in one school in Philippines, one of the briefs stated that the architecture must be future-proof. That is part of the brief. That is part of the term of reference, the future-proof. So how do you define future-proof, and how do you start to design that? Anyone? Okay, Suna, can you use this? Sudah. I'm sorry ya, ini karena saya tuh harus dos dan ada ngajar, jadi I need to record that using my. Okay.
For me is I'm gonna look for current events, what is going on in the world, like the natural disaster and stuff for the next 30 years or so that we can plan accordingly to mitigate the effects of those natural disasters and also the climate change that is going on.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So you see from the side of how the building will stand during the event of natural disaster, climate change. Okay, good. Okay, any other option? How we see it? This is not one single aspect. Anything might be relevant.
Of like the society, like how the society and how the people around the area of where you're building is functioning, because there are some buildings that are built generally just to generate jobs in the area, as well as to add on to what Suna said. For example, if you choose to build a building in a topography such as like a coastline, you have to think of the materials, and maybe if it's like a resort, then you have to think of like what would make customers like to come to the area. So you have to think of the function and also the social condition around the building.
Okay. Thank you, Mbak Fadilah ya. Now I call your name correctly. Okay, so Mbak Fadilah mentioned to give emphasis about the user, the potential user, who might also different from time to time, yeah, and then understand the social topographic of the immediate surrounding of the building. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any other? Probably someone already said about the natural condition and then the users. Are there anything else that we can probably start with when you got that kind of brief? Anyone? Oh, tadi Mas dicatat ya, Mas. Suna Fadilah. Ini berapa? 5 ya 58 kamu. 45. Oke. Boleh. Enggak apa, pakai ini dong. Biar masuk suaramu di Zoom. Namanya Mas?
31 Akil.
Akil. Nah.
Terus jadi kalau yang untuk natural condition itu palingan saya pernah belajar tuh dari Venesia. Venesia itu sebenarnya daerah mereka itu kotanya itu bukan kota yang dataran apa sih permukaannya itu yang kuat tanahnya itu karena mereka itu sebenarnya itu rawa-rawa dan mereka itu ini bakal bisa kayak kalau misalnya nggak bisa disolusinya dan mereka pun mencari solusinya dan bisa dilihat sampai sekarang kan masih ada Venesia itu karena mereka itu ada karena tahu bahwa lumpur itu kalau dibangun pasti akan geser-geser terus tanahnya jadi mereka membawa banyak banget kayu-kayu di mana nanti ditancapin di setiap berapa meter dari seluruh bagian rawa-rawa itu yang akhirnya di samping-samping rawa-rawa mereka bikin ada lagi dari semen jadi sampai sekarang tuh tanahnya itu yang awalnya lumpur jadi bisa kuat untuk dijadiin bangunan-bangunan yang sampai sekarang masih ada.
Okay. Thank you. So the technology, yeah. Akil mentioned the technology have to be appropriate and also fit with the context of the surrounding. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. That's 3 good approach how we might answer the challenge of future proof. Yeah. Okay. Wait. Okay. Designing is kita continue ya. Designing is a hybrid activity of art, science, and mathematics. The difference is timing. Okay, so it means when we have a mathematic question, 1 times 1 equal how many, itu adalah current state ya. Dan kalau design, it has to be beyond that. So what is interesting with designing is that we can go beyond now. And that is why people outside architecture, outside the design discipline itself, need the design thinking, because design thinking can go beyond the present state. Yeah, for instance, someone in product design can predict, okay, probably the market wants what, probably the trend will go that way, so that I will have to follow the trend and make something new that that people will love there. So designers deal with the reality that exists in the imagined future and have to foresee things to be made exist. Because if we want to do something, for instance, I want to create a space where I want to create a space of classroom that make people don't want to talk, so that you keep silent, for instance. And then, so the architect have a vision, the architect have a method, the architect have the product, right? So you foresee, you have to, so the architect have to have vision. You cannot just, okay, I will design whatever, I don't know what I'm designing. Let's let the pencil goes, and then let's see how it goes. You cannot do that. You need to start with a vision. What do you want? Yeah, what do you want to make? It's like if you want to go from Bandung to Semarang, right? You need to set the end goal first, and then you can go through a toll road, you can go to the normal. That is the method, that is the way you go there, and it's up to you. Everyone can take different methods, but then as long as it is reaching the final goal, and that it means the method is correct. Yeah, unless you go to the toll road and then you end up to Surabaya, it means that itu berarti metodenya incorrect ya, karena tidak bisa leading to the specific vision that you want. Okay, you understand whatever I'm saying so far? Yeah? Okay, good. Any question? Yet? No? Okay, now I want to touch on the difference between craftsman and designer. Yeah, okay. So before as I mentioned that design with capital D is a new, stream in education. And then before design, so designing is a new knowledge, yeah. Before that, many people do crafting. Craftsman, ya. Contohnya apa? Craftsman itu. Can you make any example that probably the example of craft? That's why probably it is different with design. Designing. Anyone? Crafting? Okay, let's read it, yeah. Craftsman is the maker of things, and designer is the maker of drawing. Why? Because craftsmen usually use a trial and error process, while designer use the trial and error process in the drawing, in the plan. Yeah. So the designer plan, that is the trial and error process happen, because when it is built, there will be no room for error, right? While craftsmen still have room for error, and by knowing the error, they refine it. For instance, if you cook, yeah, this is like an example outside architecture. For instance, if you cook and you have the recipe and you know how much salt that you want to put. Okay, 1 tablespoon, exact amount. But then sometimes people improve, right? Just a little bit, and then she tasted, I need more salt, and then put it again, and more salt, not yet. And then suddenly, oh, too much salt, too salty, pour another water, right? That is a similar process of the craftsman. Yeah, you make like a round shape wheels. When he roll it, oh, this is not smooth enough, so he trim it again until he found the perfect shape that he wants. So you know now, right? I mean, the difference between craftsmen and designers. Yeah. Ibu Disti from next class contacted me and say that, well, I have bahan untuk a material for delving deeper into this comparison, and probably we will do it later, yeah, nanti next week or the following weeks. I'm excited to see what she offer about this too. Okay, let's read the characteristic of the craftsman. Yeah, this is the characteristic of the craftsmen or the crafting. They don't or they can't draw their work, nor can give reason for the decision they take. Sometimes it is more like an art, like it is just come there without any specific reason. Because sometimes crafting is not problem solving. That's why, yeah. If design, we are certain that we are solving any problem. That's why we can give reason why you do this, why this door is facing that way, why they put the windows on top of the class. There will be always reason for every choice in design. But in craft, sometimes they don't. It's just like, yeah, because I like it. Yeah, because, it looks good. Because, yeah, something like that. Okay, so second one, the modified by countless failures and successes. So the trial and error process, yeah. Produce discordance features, changing only one thing at a time. Do you understand what it means? So the craftsmen want to, for instance, tadi yang makanan, add salt, they add one, right? And then itu changing one thing at a time. For instance, if a craftsman make a cart carriage ya, apa sih kereta kuda itu? Oh, for instance, some part is missing or something needs to be changed or something needs to be refined. He just changed that part because he doesn't think the whole structure, but only that part, and then see how it goes. And then, oh, it's still not smooth in this part. And then he changed another part, like specific part. So it's specific part in many times of the refinement, yeah. Changes are only to correct errors or to meet the new demands. Jadi bukan untuk, sometimes it's not to improve. Like, okay, I have a Mercedes-Benz, or probably I have a Pajero sport car. Okay, I want to enhance it. So the designer designed a new facelift, a new engine, but sometimes, most of the time, craftsmen don't do that. They just act because there's something to be act upon, which is to fix things, to make things smoother, but not for, you know, not like a leap of, you know, vision, something like want to refine the whole part like that. Okay, the shape of the product cannot be altered without making an experiment with the product itself. Anyone want to probably explain what does that mean? Probably make sense of the shape of the product cannot be altered without making an experiment with the product itself. Anyone want to explain? Probably how the craftsmen do that and why designer don't do that. Gimana? Ya, boleh Mbak. Sorry ya. Mbak. Pin 088. Okay.
I think it's related to the fact that what it is like to the experience and the current designer, because we need to think about the whole and whole like
Okay, so you say because the designer have to see in a holistic way, like the whole part, only, okay, not only a small part. Okay, okay, good. Anything, anyone else want to convey? Probably, yes, please. Mbak siapa? Namanya dan okay.
It's different because, for example, craftsmen is like the people who make musical instruments. They go through like a lot of trial and errors. And for musical instruments, I think it's very hard for designer to make the instrument, maybe like violin or maybe a guitar. I think the craftsmen, they have to really make it like a lot of thousand times to make it the perfect instrument.
Okay. Okay. Berdiana. Okay. Okay, itu memang betul ya. So that's correct that they need to refine the shape. But if this if the statement said that the shape of work cannot be altered without making an experiment with the product itself, what makes designer can experiment can do experiment with the building without even touching the building. How is the logic of that statement? If we say, okay, like for instance, we have a Singaporean government are facing a problem with the first full timber building. So some years ago, the government initiate to create like a sustainable building, green building, creating a building full of timber from the structure to the partition to everything. Suddenly, they now facing the problem of mold, jamuran. That it turns out that woods not only doesn't really fit with the humid tropical condition of Singapore. Now, the architect fix it. Does the architect have to be in the building to fix it? Or he tried to make a decision without being in the building? And why so? Why, if you choose yes, in the building, or he's not in the building, and why? Come on, thinking? Anyone want to try? Okay. Okay, thank you Mbak. Aduh, senang saya kalau banyak yang menjawab. Oke, thank you. Ada retro dari Pak Mim. Oke, 99 Mas.
Past experience. So that, like Guru said, so because if we terjun langsung to build the building, I think it's not really necessary. There's a lot of kerugian, yeah. Rather than the craftsman, maybe it's only a small product, so they can make it like.
Okay. Story lagi about Singapore. I think that architect have to in solving the problem of mold or do it elsewhere. Designing the solve the solution.
Can be good.
Hmm.
Yeah. If I think if the mold is really big, or we need to like right away we need to solve it, maybe we need to how it mencegah, we can do like research how to solve it. Like
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so see, we can actually do that is the difference between designer and craftsman, because we are using drawings, yeah, and then we can, for instance, okay, rumah kamu lagi jamuran, there's a mold. You might think in the office, yeah, so what to do? You call people what to do, meaning that the solution come not in when you touch the building. You know what I'm saying? That is a different. Ngapain saya pakai ini? Saya udah pakai. Okay. Yeah, the solution can come without even touching the building, but the craftsman, the solution come when he touch it because he refine it. Paham nggak maksud saya? Jadi ketika there's a problem of mold, you probably gather your fellow architects and probably people from health and biology and something else, and then you come with the conclusion of, okay, we need to do this, we need to reapply this kind of material, we need to change this, and that decision does not come when you touch the building. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we can make a distance with the building while we make decision. Okay, and probably next, this is the benefit that we do design by drawing, because trial and error is separated. That is separated production by using scale drawing. So, trial and error that is separated production by using scale drawing. Kenapa kata-kata ini ya? I mean, we can separate. We can try to lessen the trial and the error by using scale drawing, and try to predict ya. Jadi kalau kamu mau bikin kayu, use connecting to woods gitu. You don't have to craft it one by one until it fits each other. You can draw it, right? So using scale drawing, you can skip the trial and error process and then make the good one. Separation of thinking from making. Now, this is one also the benefit for designing, that now when you do drawing, there's a thinking process, right? And then the making part can be anywhere. Build a car, yeah. Is the designer of the car have to be present in the fabric? No, right? So the designer is designing on the piece of paper, make a scale drawing, and give someone else to build. Okay, you built the door, you built the windshield, you built the machine, the engine, you built the thing. So it become separate between the maker and the doer. Yeah. Split up the production into separate pieces made by different people, as I mentioned. For instance, probably your cell phone consists of so many things inside it and made by so many people, different parties. Someone made the screen, someone made the cases, someone made the IC, the lamp, the things, yeah. And that makes things faster to build, because craftsmen usually do it alone. That's why it takes a lot of time, a longer time, and less project compared to the designer, yeah, in the same time of making. Possible to make things that are too big for a single craftsman. If one craftsman only can build probably something as big as what? Probably Garuda Wisnu Kencana kali ya. That's the biggest sculptor can make. But then designer can make Eiffel Tower, Burj Khalifa, right? Because why? Because it is not made by one person only. Someone take care of different people take care of different parts of the building. Division of labor increase the size of product and rate of production. Yeah, make it faster and possibly bigger result. Okay, now any question about that? Bentar ya. Dulu. Jam berapa? Jam 8. Although this is theoretical, I hope you can relate. Can you relate with whatever I'm saying today? Yeah, that our profession as a designer, as an architect, work that way. We don't do the trial and error. We don't do things of that what craftsmen did. So yeah, I try. Probably this is a bit boring for you, the theory part, but yeah, we need to understand our profession better. Yeah. Thinking style. Okay. So I want to touch on the thinking style. So we have two actually that we discuss here, heuristic and logic. Can anyone probably say something about the heuristic thinking? If you're not familiar with the word, you probably can Google it. What does it mean? And then help me probably read that out. Whatever you come. Kamu? Oh enggak, kamu angkat tangan. Oh iya. Oke. Hilmi kan ya? Kamu mau Next. Alvin 032. Yang mana? Oh itu kamu, bukan itu di kepala saya. Yang mana ya?
Prioritas. Ya, dia lebih mengedepankan visi dan pemahaman.
Thank you, Mas Davin. Davin ya, berarti Luffy. Oke. Anyone tadi ada yang mau ngebacain atau ada yang mau berpendapat? Anyone want to? Hello? Anyone want to? But I appreciate ya, you open the book and you take a note ya, because anak sekarang usually don't want to take a note because he think probably that they will have the PDF. So, tapi ya baguslah. Ini saya melihat banyak yang mencatat dan dengan tangan bahkan ya, walaupun di pad. Ada yang mau membacakan? Ayo, masa nggak ada? Oke. Ada tadi apa intrinsic? Okay, so probably personal choices and then personal ya tadi yang dibilang sama Mas Davin ya berarti ya. Okay, so if you see both picture on screen, ya, ada unconscious thinking ya. That one on the probably left hand of you. That is quick, that is automatic, little to no effort. It's more emotional. That is what we call heuristic. Yeah, that part is heuristic. And designer usually have a very strong heuristic thinking. Although it doesn't mean that the designer don't have rational or logical thinking, but designer have a very strong heuristic thinking, the capability to do heuristic thinking. If it's logic, then the right part, yeah, it's more rational, slower, it's more for complex decision, more logical, effortful, and conscious. So now I will probably ask you to guess when do we, actually we have both heuristic and logic, but when do we use our heuristic thinking? When you see that quick, instinctive, automatic, emotional, when? Suna. Ini ya, saya tuh pengen nge-record. While it's difficult to move around with this.
For me,
Uh-huh.
when we think heuristically, I think it's very efficient when we are doing brainstorming.
Mhm.
When we're doing brainstorm, we gather our ideas very quickly, very efficient, so that we can compile it all together. And then into the next step of designing, then we can think logically after.
Mm.
So first heuristically and then logically. So yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay. Thank you, Sunat. Anyone else have another opinion, different opinion? When? Actually, you did that together as a class. Me also. Ya, Mbak siapa? Mbak siapa? Andrea. Andrea, NIM 036. Oke. Mm-mm.
User emissions capture the parts of the group.
Mhm.
Then we use logic when we think about the structure.
Mhm.
Essentially, it's strong line. Then we
Okay. Okay. Good. But also, both of you haven't touched on one important thing from heuristic thinking. Is that the time? You remember when you did Crazy 8 with me? When you were under pressure and you have to put something on the drawing paper? Did you think that you become a logical person that time? No. That is when heuristic thinking of you play out. It was like instinct. It was like, okay, whatever. I need to come with a decision. It's automatic, it's quick, it's forced sometimes. So you actually can see the difference, right? But then after you do the Crazy 8 and then you do the evaluation of the 8 part, and then I ask you to kind of score, right? And then you start using your logic. Okay, which one is more buildable that can be built in a very short time? Use another part of your thinking. So you actually now realize that you have both, right? You have both. Okay. Next, Mas. And when heuristic thinking is employed, when too much information, for instance, too much information is like you have an information that you know that you won't be able to digest. So you have this intuition play out. Ya, for instance apa ya? Like for instance, you are probably, just say that you are a designer and a very famous architect that want to be that is asked to design the identity symbol for Indonesia, for instance. And then where do you start? The identity of Indonesia, the identity building of Indonesia. You want to collect the whole identity of every race and people in Indonesia just to make sure that your design represent them all. You won't have time, right? Will you probably gather the information of, yeah, I mean, when the scope are too big, too much information needed, sometimes akhirnya you jump to, okay, let's do this one. Ya udah gini aja lah. Yang kata-kata ya udah gini aja lah. Itu tuh akhirnya pada saat itu heuristic thinkingnya yang jalan. Ya. Okay. The time to make decision is very limited. Like what I mentioned, like the Crazy 8 part. Yeah. Like for instance, you play like a apa ya? Family Feud, Family 100 gitu ya. And then ada pertanyaan, and then you have to press the bell, and then you say it out loud, right? Did you think rational in a logical way that time? No, it's heuristic thinking that come. But you can still answer it, and it might be correct answer, but the part that you do is the heuristic one, yeah. Decision to be made is unimportant. For instance, apa ya? Ya kamu mau makan apa? Udahlah nasi goreng aja lah. What do you want to eat? Fried rice. You don't need to think because for you it's not important because you are doing the deadline, for instance. So your attention is to other thing, but you need to make a decision of other thing that you think unimportant. Udah apa aja lah, nasi goreng aja lah sama jus. Dah. Did you think logically that you really want to do the fried rice? No, just whatever, like do whatever, right? That is the heuristic thinking. A little information provided is very little. That's the apa namanya, the opposite of the first one, but also that's the heuristic thinking. For instance, you just barely know someone and you need to make, for instance, make a apa namanya, give a present to that person. You know, and you don't know anything about his favorite, his preference, and everything. Okay, yaudahlah, my instinct, I think this will be good for him. Ya, jadi itu yang terjadi. And when an appropriate heuristic happen to come to mind in the same moment. Okay, so yeah, I mean, but I mean, what my point is that you understand that you have two kind of thinking style, yeah. Another thinking style is divergent and convergent, yeah. So when the other part, that heuristic and logic, is about how you make decision, but divergent and convergent is how the attitude of how we deal with things, yeah. Divergent is exploration. It's opening. Kalau umbrella, it's opening that way. So it means that you, and then you make so many decisions below you, yeah. Exploring as many diverse ideas, generation of varieties, imaginative, expansive, exploratory, asking question. It means it usually do it in the analysis part. Have you done any analysis before? No ya. Pada waktu di TechPress ada analysis site nggak sih? Belum ya. Okay. So probably later in the studio assignment you will need to do that. When you analysis something, kemarin analisis apa? Definisinya? Breaking into smaller parts, right? You understand from parts. It means that one thing you potong-potong menjadi banyak part, and then you understand one by one. Itu divergent. The difference with convergent, convergent is usually in design is the next step after the divergent part. After you have all the series, there you cut so many things, and then you have so many on your table. Now, what to do with this? Okay, saya akan kerucutkan. I will trim it down. And then from all the possible concept, which one that I will make, I will translate into design, yeah. And then you kind of ini combining idea that engage with each other, selecting elements, organizing relationship, eliminating possibilities, synthesis, evaluative, productive, testing, alternative, answering question. Meaning, after you break down into parts, now kamu bisa combine. Oh, this is combining with this. So you will have a group of concepts or option, and then combine it, and then probably not only combining, selecting it. Oh, this is not important. This is not important. This is the most important. And then you narrow it down. So the umbrella goes that way. Yeah, not that way, but goes that way. Okay, so this happens in design, in every design, I think. So you start with divergent part and then convergence. Do you understand what my explanation? Yeah? Okay. Design steps. Okay. So, framework. Yeah. Framework is the overarching thought of the design process. Yeah. The process by which people develop a particular conceptualization of an issue or reorient their thinking about the issue. So, this is a point of view, a starting bias, yeah, a starting state. So, the design, for instance, probably the same term of reference. Why two different architects come with two different design? Because sometimes they start with a different starting bias. They start with different framework. Yeah, design framework is the top, the umbrella of how you design that will lead to specific approach, specific method. Yeah, jadi probably my framework, my thinking framework is different with, for instance, Pak Andri, who loves to deal with materiality, the bamboo, because I deal with the social part, the social, political, cultural part. So I will employ something that align with my framework. I will do the approach, probably the humanity approach, while probably Pak Andri will do with materiality, the exploring materiality, the strength, the probably how to make the joint and everything. I will not deal with that. I don't care if my building is built by with bamboo or with beton or anything, because what I care about is how this works within the society. You know, that difference is the different framework that I have with Pak Andri. Which one is the correct one? Which one is better? There's no answer for that one. So if you have a certain framework, it doesn't mean that you are better or not compared to the other people that have different framework. But we can argue which framework is more appropriate than the other based on the thing that you design. For instance, if you deal with a slum area on the river bank, probably the framework of the aesthetic part is not really important, right? But if you need to have a framework of how to empower them, how to make them less suffer after eviction, you know, that kind of framework that we can argue that is more, which one is more appropriate. Okay. There are three frameworks based on the book of Fluoride, yeah. Fluoride, Philip Fluoride, it's actually a very good book about design. It said that there are three major pattern, major framework to design, yeah, for the whole design actually, not only architecture. First, and we actually use this in our prod, pattern-based framework, force-based framework, and concept-based framework. Pattern-based, based on tool, pattern, rule set, composition, arrangement. Kalau di arsitektur kita bilangnya typology based, ya. Yeah. So each typology that you did, right, di kelas bedah karya ya, you collect precedent for different typologies. Typology is not only functions, but also it comes with rule of sets, and that is the pattern-based framework. Kalau ini kan secara design general ya, they call it pattern-based. We call it typology-based in architecture. So focus on efficiency to make the proposal, leaning heavily on formal information while limiting attention to the culture and social use of space, using past project patterns and characteristics leading to typology. Typology, for instance, rumah sakit, the hospital, it become a very strong typology because it comes with a very strict standard. For instance, the alley of the rumah sakit of the apa namanya, hallway-nya hospital, it has a minimum standard of around 2 meters, 2.1, 2.2 meters. Why? Because it has to be big enough to dorong brankar to the bed, to push the bed. Apa sih namanya? Saya nggak ngerti kalau bahasa ininya brankar ya. And then for the, especially for the operation room, yeah, it has a very strict standard. So the typology came with set of standard, and people and typology that have very strong standards, sometimes they don't really think about the other thing but the standard itself, because the standard itself is already overwhelming for the architect. Yeah. Jadi kalau rumah sakit, hospital, probably it is not common to see hospital in a crazy looking design, because they built for the standard. Yeah, once the standard failed, then it's all failed. Yeah. Okay, so the pattern language, that's the example dari John Christopher Jones. Force base. Force base, kalau di kita, ini yang sedang, this is what we currently use for our studios throughout the department. Whether it's force base or issue base. Issue base, yeah. And this is the emphasis for your final project later in year 4, yeah. Based on pressure, asset, concern, flows, focus on negotiation of the complex forces, then heavily on making the force accessible and ordered, so designer can act upon, while limiting attention to pre-existing rules, design as a result of force and the application of principles, leading to research analysis of to produce radical but rational innovation. Radical but rational. It means it based on forces. Forces sih? Apa? Ya, tekanan. Apa sih isu itu? Ya, ada force, ada interest, ada we start with the problem. Ya, apa yang ingin diselesaikan, and then ada forces datang. For instance, I wanna deal with Jalan Ganesha. Oke, ada force apa? Ada force parkir, isu tentang PKL, isu mahasiswa butuh makan, isu penghijauan, isu kebersihan, isu kemacetan. Those are the forces that you have to deal with, right? Different with the typology part. Typology don't really deal with this because they already have a standard, and they might add the issues, but that is not compulsory. But when you do this, you are pinpointing, the issues and how to solve it. That's why the shape and the standard become irrelevant. Ya, jadi mungkin saja it is possible if you want to build like a masjid dengan bentuk yang aneh atau malah yang dengan small scale or apa, as long as it solves the issues, that's okay. Yeah. So it's not like you are tied to what is common already. For instance, you want to build sekolah. Sekolah is as a typology, it has already like a standard, right? For 30 students, the minimum size of the room is this. The minimum, probably how many toilets for how many per how many students, you can calculate it. But then if you use, if you design a school with force-based framework, those standard doesn't necessarily apply. Yeah. For instance, I want to create this big class as big as this room, and then only for 10. Is it allowed? Yeah, allowed. Yeah, why not? But then you have to justify why you need this big room for only 10 people, for instance. And then you justify it. Yeah, because there's a need of the people, the student, to run around, to be surrounded by, for instance, the toy. So I want to fill the whole room with the toys, for instance. So it goes with the argument. Yeah. Okay. Next. This is the third one, the concept-based framework. So some architect in the world use this, but this is not really popular because it is putting emphasis on the form, the shape, while putting on the form and shape makes it difficult to be justified in terms of context. Ya, jadi kalau bentuknya like a Frank Gehry style, and then how you justify it in the, for instance, Bilbao context for the Bilbao Guggenheim, for instance, it's difficult because it comes with the idea of concept or form first, based on metaphor, analogy, question, the big idea, focusing on framing ideas as a way to organize architectural responses, focusing on the coherence of the central ideas, easy to grasp and understand, but usually lacking depth and richness. And that is why architectural schools don't really teach you this. But probably you can do this because you are still in the lower level, year 2. It's still okay to do this. But then if you move higher, they will ask you for the justification of your design. And using this concept is a bit difficult to be justified. Design as a result of philosophical position, relying on the expressive quality, and closer to technique of poetry, literature, and theater. Yeah. So you know the difference between the three, right? Yeah, clear enough? Clear enough or not? Yeah, okay. Whew. So I'm sorry, this is a bit dense because I combined two material, yeah, actually for 2 weeks. I combine it into one because we have to make space for the method in the second part of the lecture, second half of the lecture in this semester. Design approach and method. Okay. Time-nya jam berapa nih? Bentar lagi dong. As I mentioned, architecture is a wicked problem, yeah. In architecture, there really aren't any problems. Rather, there is a complex layering of pressure, forces, perception, desire, priorities, and values. Define the goal of architectural design as a problem, become reductive. Kemarin what did I mention about wicked problem earlier? In next class. Anyone want to probably elaborate what is wicked problem again? Hello? Guys? Anyone remember? I mentioned, right? Yes. And then? What is again? What is the wicked problem again? Wicked means jahat. And why the problem of architecture become wicked? Because apa? Kamu coba jawab. Sultan, NIM berapa? 13. NIM 13.
Karena kalau kita menyelesaikan masalah arsitektur bisa menyelesaikan tapi bisa menimbulkan masalah lain.
Oke. Terus kalau tadi yang di bawah defining the goal of architecture become reductive, reduktifnya kenapa? Kira-kira? Kenapa harus kita terpaksa harus mensimplify? Nggak tahu? Nah, kenapa? Ya udah, kalau nggak tahu nggak apa-apa. Saya nggak ngebakin. Ini bukan tebakan, saya mengajak kalian berpikir aja sih. Jadi kita, betul ya tadi ya yang si Sultan bilang, bahwa when we try to solve something, we create another problem. Ya, jadi bahkan dibilangnya in architecture there really aren't any problems. Sebenarnya semua itu problems, akhirnya nggak ada yang jadi problem gitu ya, karena semua itu problem. Kayak semua itu cantik, akhirnya nggak ada yang cantik gitu ya. Ya udah standarnya seperti itu. Cuman tinggal kita melihat mana yang ingin di highlight. Dan kenapa tadi become reductive? Because you need to trim down. Otherwise, everything become problems. You know what I'm saying? Jadi, ya gitu. Kalau semuanya cantik, and then you have to pick one as the main ini, ya you need to reduce you need to make ini smaller kan, maksudnya ya udahlah supaya saya bisa pick one, you try to be reductive. Nah, karena because we have a very wicked problem, we need a starting bias tadi. Because a project, for instance, tadi a slum area can be dealt with different framework. Saya dan Pak Andri tadi mungkin different the solution. Itu kenapa starting bias itu present to limit and filter which information is used in the initial setup of architecture design process. So, for instance, kalau saya bilang I want to deal with the Jalan Ganesha problem, I want to deal with the PKL. Kalian kemarin sempat lihat nggak sih pada waktu itu penuh PKL? Lihat ya, sempat lihat ya sebelum bersih ya. Okay, I want to deal with the street vendor in Jalan Ganesha. That is your initial problem. But is the PKL the only problem in Jalan Ganesha? No, there are so many problems. The parking, the parking parkir liar, and then the traffic jam, and then the cleanliness, and then the probably dark at night, yeah, because we don't have any proper lights. Itu semua problem. Why I highlight the street vendor? Because I reduce that to make space for myself to think focusly on this first. Otherwise, you cannot start because there are too many problems. Yeah, and that is where the starting bias at play. Yeah, whatever you choose usually leads you to the final proposal. If you deal with the PKL or the street vendor, your design will be different when you start with, for instance, the parking, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the design approach will define your result. Yeah. To structure, content, tools, type of information, thinking style, location of judgment, and point of decision making. But that they do not make decision. You know what I'm saying? So the approach itself does not make decision. So it's just try to create a bubble in which you can work on the project, but it does not necessarily come. Okay, kalau saya Jalan Ganesha saya selesaikan dengan approach sustainability, pasti hasilnya seperti ini. Bukan. Sometimes people think that if they employ a certain approach or method, it will inform directly of the result. No, it's just like a container that you're in, yeah, to the project, but you make your own decision, yeah. Okay. What is approach? Yeah, a way of dealing with somebody or something, a way of doing or thinking about something such as a problem or a task, movement nearer to somebody or something in distance or time. Preconceiving the process, steps, and priorities before proceeding with the development of any initiative. So approach means the view, the glasses that you use when you see something. Yeah. When I use this glass, I see the room like this. When I change my glass into the Ray-Ban, the black one, I suddenly see the room become darker. And I change it into the yellow glass, suddenly become brighter. Yeah. So the approach is your lens. The approach is your lens. So if you use the approach of green building, will create a different way of looking with, for instance, using approach of materiality, for instance, or for instance, apalagi, or the health, mental well-being, for instance. Yeah, it will create different view and different result. While, okay, so this is something that you need to know. Probably this is a bit already familiar, the black box, design as a creative process. Jadi, the black box approaches as if you design in the black box. So nobody will know. So this is more like intuitive one. So yeah, let's read. Yeah, design is a creative process, mysterious creative leap, a eureka moment. Design process goes on inside the designer's head and partly out of reach of his conscious mind. Designer as a magician, past experience matter, mental rigidity is an enemy of creativity. The threat of ambiguity and conflict must be high in anyone who wishes to produce anything but stereotype design. So this black box means your head is a black box. Nobody will understand what is going inside your head. Suddenly you create, voila, a building that looks like what? So it is different with the glass box. Glass box means as if your head is a glass and everyone can understand the way you think. So this is more rational, more systematic, more planned sequence. Probably there are some rules applied. Yeah, as if it's someone even mentioned that design is a human computer, meaning that there will always be a series of way of thinking that can be objectified, that can be trimmed down into criteria. Yeah. Which one you are leaning toward, yang glass box atau yang black box biasanya in design? Hah? Who do black box? Nggak ada. Who do glass box? Nggak ada. Coba dong. Hey. Now you think of your design process or probably how you come into creative process. Who usually do the glass box? My design is very rational. If I throw a house, it has to be on proportion. Who? Hands up higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, not many. Yeah, 14. Okay. Who do black box? Sometimes I don't know what is happening. Suddenly I have this idea and it's just going on and on and on, and suddenly it's finished. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I think we have more black box designer, yeah, in this room. Both have strength, have different strength and weaknesses. So probably you can dig deeper into this later, yeah. I think this is the last bit, the design method. If it's the approach is the glass, yeah, the way of looking. The method is how to do something, to generate something. Yeah, like the crazy 8 we did. That was a method. For instance, another method is, for instance, design chart. Have you heard about design chart? No. Okay. So design chart is where you gathered as a group, and then one is sketching, and then someone come one by one giving ideas to your design. Yeah. So it leads to the generative part that you generate result. Yeah, that is a method. Another thing is the body storming. For instance, you use human body. One of your friend use your body to probably sit and then create a possible position and then measure it and everything. So that is method. So you know the difference ya, approach and method. Ya, ngerti nggak? Ini soalnya mau buat tugas loh. Make sure that you understand the difference. Ya, ngerti? So method is how to do things. Approach is how to see things, see the problem. Ya. Okay, so we don't have any more time ya sebenarnya ya. I think I don't have time to do this class discussion, but have a look, yeah, have a look and reflect on this question. How do we select approaches and method that is considered appropriate in designing certain architectural projects? Is one approach better or more appropriate than the other in any project, or probably a certain project? What is the implication of employing different approaches and method into design result? Yeah. Homework. Okay, so I have homework for you. You already have groups, right? You already have groups, okay. Kak Evan udah menerima listnya, okay. So, you know that we are currently having a design exhibition, right? Yeah, okay. So now, I want you to choose 3 projects that are most appealing to your groups, yeah. It can be from any criteria. In the exhibition, there are criteria of invited student, alumni project, academic project, best studio work or anything. You can choose any that is displayed there, yeah. And then I want you to analyze the design approach and method employed in the project. And then from the 3, compare the different approach and method and how they lead to different results. Okay, so you can choose from the same typology or different typology, but try to understand how the architect or the designer think and work for the project. If the information is incomplete, you can make an assumption, yeah. But if you probably know the designer, because that mostly are student also, and you can probably ask the person, meet the person and ask, what did you do or what did you think when you try to solve this? The project, the brief that given to you, why it led to this design. Okay, is it enough? And I don't have any standard of the output, so it's just put it on the presentation of your choice. It can be poster, it can be in a written short essay, it can be on PPT, yeah, slideshow, anything, as long as you do the discussion and I can see how you compare and analyze the 3 projects. Okay? And the level of depth of the discussion can be varied, depend on how deep you can have a discussion among the groups. Of course, if you can analyze deeper, the mark will be better. Yeah. Okay. Anyone have a question? Yeah, Mas? No, don't. Jadi, if you coincidentally have one project that probably used by 2 or 3 groups, it's okay, but the rest of the 2 should be different. So probably 1 or, yeah, at least don't try to, if you find exactly the same project, yeah, make it a bit different lah ininya. Jadi ada 1 atau 2 yang beda. Jadi jangan semua sama. Jadi nanti analisisnya biar berbeda. Ya, kan projectnya banyak situ, ada 100 biji. Okay? Any other question? No? If not, then this. So every homework will have a deadline of kapan ya, Mas? Sebelum mulai aja. Before we start the class the following week. Yeah. And then it has to be submitted online, and I don't think that we need the physical submission, so online before 7 p.m. Tuesday next week. Okay? Oh, good. Okay. Bu Dian mau menambahkan sedikit? Probably? Masih ada? Belum jam 9. Yeah. Some minutes.
frameworks, I think, thought it is very important.
force-based frameworks. So Dr. Philip Diplo, right, said that force-based framework is a develop of whole series of informations that we gather, we collect. So we try to understand the information, a lot of information to get formal outcomes. Okay, so that it has 5 aspects for force-based frameworks. First is environment, such as sun, wind, and also light, something like that. And second is sensory motoric, and third is ergonomic, like anthropometry, and also the cultural and also social. Cultural, like for example, the agreement with the people there, for example, like that. And it is said that why concept-based framework is not recommended because the concept-based framework is only determine one specific idea, one specific information that we choose only one, and the other things we ignore. For example, we like philosophy, and we like the concept of the 5 pillars of philosophy. Maybe you haven't studied about that yet, but it is right context with the environment there. But if we make that philosophy to your project, it's only a concept, not has a force-based framework. And also, as minutes more, I want to write about heuristic from Daniel Kahneman. We also have to be careful with heuristic for important for deciding important things, but for unimportant things. For example, you know, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, he always use gray because it's not important for him, because he has to think about other things. For things, he has to create other informations, other things. So we cannot use that stick again. For example, it can be very impulsive and it can be very biased. For example, you hear a lot of bad, in social media about news. You every day think about that is news is right, but actually it's not right. It is biased. It becomes it is called availability heuristic. So you have to be careful. So I think that's it. Maybe okay, because it's
Yeah, I know.
I'm so sorry that I talk too much. That's most of the time. Okay, thank you so much, Budian, for the emphasis. Yeah, what Budian mentioned is very important about the framework. I really hope that, and the framework requires critical thinking. That's why you need to, always refine that part. Okay, so no question, right? Okay, then I'll see you next week, but probably later on, yeah, in the next lecture. Oke, saya tutup yang ini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.